My question for you this week kind of ties into our guilty pleasure dumpster fire that we'll talk about later. So if you could create an avatar for any other species on Earth, what would it be? Matt, let's start with you this week.
So there's definitely a lot of possibilities for this. But based on recent reactions from my dogs, I think I'm going to say a squirrel just to drive them crazy for a few minutes.
Tabitha.
I am currently in the midst of hot flash season, so I'm going to say a penguin because that sounds refreshing.
Lydia.
Well, I mean, I gotta go with an otter because, I mean, I love otters anyway, but then I can, go find the one that I accidentally squealed at that lives in the Lick Creek over by Chatham, and I can say I'm sorry.
So, my original answer was going to be a cat because, hey, I like to take naps all day anyway. However, now thinking about it and kind of like hearing your guys' answers, I think I'm going to go with a goose. Because geese are assholes anyway. And so that gives me free reign to be an asshole. Sign me the F up.
You could not do that because you'd go home at night and be like, oh my God, they're probably really mad at me.
Honk and chase somebody and then apologize.
Yeah, and then chase them back down and apologize, but it still sounds angry because you're a goose. And then you go home and beat yourself up about it.
I'm back to being a cat. You're listening to The Geek Awakens with Mitch,
Matt.
Tabitha.
And Lydia.
All right, so we're going to start with the poll list this week. What's on our poll list this week? And we've got one book to talk about. It's the name is Mine is a Long, Lonesome Grave. It's out now from Oni Press. Written by Justin Jordan with art by Chris Shehan. So Harley Creed has finally been released from prison. All he wants to do is leave his hometown behind and disappear. Unfortunately for him, somebody has put a hex on him that will kill him in 7 days if he doesn't kill the person responsible first. So one of the things that I really liked about this book, it does this thing we've talked about before, kind of drops you in the middle of the story, but then it does that for the first maybe 2 or 3 pages. Then it backtracks and then ends that issue where you started. So I thought that was a really good way of kind of catching you up to where we are. This book, it's not super gory, but there is definitely gore. But it's kind of got me hooked. There's a lot of mystery to it, and I feel so when we don't know for sure why Harley was in prison, we have a pretty darn good idea. But I think that even then, it's not going to end up being what it looks like it was. And I've kind of confused myself here, but I'm still here for it. Lydia, what'd you think?
I'm also hooked. I did kind of have a problem with, them dropping in the middle, but not because of the way it started and ended. I liked that part of it. It's the fact that the overall story feels like you just got dropped in the middle and don't have any idea what's going on. It's just, oh, here's these characters. There's a hex. There's family drama. Figure it out. So that part I didn't like much. Felt a little lost, kind of trying to figure out who the characters were and why they were acting the way they were to each other. But overall, it made me want to figure it out. It kind of gave me supernatural vibes with the way everything's kind of laid out with hexes and everything. So I'm sure that didn't hurt. And, also the car. So I am excited to see where this goes and actually figure out why he was in prison, why his wife's family is hexing him, and hopefully, figure out if he's gonna take care of Granny.
Matt.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. That I'm hooked for this. I don't always have a problem when you drop me off in the middle and let me kind of catch up. I really enjoyed the fact that they did that and immediately went back and did your backstory and then left you off at the end of the issue pretty much where you started. One of my biggest gripes in a series is when you do that. You give me the first issue, hook me, get me interested, and then spend the entire second or third issue giving an entire issue of backstory. Now I'm pulled out of the story. Now I'm feel like a lot of this was unnecessary and could have been told in not quite a info dump way. This didn't feel like that because the way that it ends hooks you right back into the story. The other big thing for me on this is that Creed admits pretty much right away he knows who put the hex on him, but he's not going after that guy right off the bat. So you know that there's more to that, and there's a bigger reason, and there's more mystery, and that makes me interested to know what else is going on, not just there, but like in the surrounding town.
Tabitha.
I think I would have liked this more had it been a book. So it kind of started off like a thriller that I would read, like where you're kind of like dropped off in the middle. Dude's getting out of like prison. We don't know what happened and we're trying to figure it out. If this had been a full-length graphic novel, this would have been fantastic. And I think I would have really enjoyed it. But as we know, I do not do well with the gaps in between the times of small releases of comics. So I don't think this is for me until all of it comes out.
Well, let's go to Guilty Pleasure Dumpster Fire.
Is it a guilty pleasure or is it a dumpster fire?
So this month's pick for Guilty Pleasure Dumpster Fire is a bit different because it's not a stereotypically bad movie. However, it has been discussed on here many times over the years, one component specifically. So it was time to decide this film's fate once and for all. Avatar is a 2009 film written and directed by James Cameron. Spoilers ahead for this 16-year-old movie. Dear God. So Sam Worthington plays Jake Sully, a paralyzed Marine veteran who goes on a journey to the planet Pandora in place of his brother who died before the trip. Pandora is home to the Na'vi, people who live in harmony with nature. The planet is also home to the expensive mineral. You want to take it, Matt?
Unobtainium.
Of course, the humans who arrived at Pandora in search of a new home want said unobtainium. Sully, who is there to operate what would have been his brother's avatar. So avatars are a human Na'vi hybrid. He gets left behind during an exhibition. It's there where he meets Neytiri, played by Zoe Saldana, who eventually trusts him to bring back to her people. It just so happens that Colonel Quatrich gave Sully orders to infiltrate the Na'vi and report back with any information the Colonel can use in their quest for unobtainium. Sully, along with the other scientists and a helicopter pilot, take the side of the Na'vi. The Na'vi are the humans go to war. The Na'vi win, but there's a lot of damage to the world. The humans are forced to leave Pandora, and Sully leaves his human body to become a full Na'vi. With an 82% popcorn meter on Rotten Tomatoes and a 7.9 out of 10 on IMDb, is Avatar a guilty pleasure or a dumpster fire? So, if this is your first time listening to one of these episodes, we break it into 4 different categories. What worked with this movie for us, what didn't work. the film's like rewatchability, especially if you've seen it before, like how it, how it's.
How it held up.
Thank you. And then finally, if it's a guilty pleasure or if it's a dumpster fire. Matt, I want to start with you. What worked for this film for you?
What worked for this film? Michelle Rodriguez. I mean, I don't care. Any film that she's in, she's a badass and she's fantastic. I enjoyed kind of how much I hated Giovanni Ribisi's character as well as the Colonel. Like those two characters in particular were kind of that Umbridge mentality. They were characters that you loved to hate. This is kind of a spoiler for me and how this whole thing is going to go. But what worked for me was that I did not hate this movie as much as I fully intended or expected to. The other thing that did work for me, I guess, was, yes, if you've listened to us before, you know my absolute disdain for unobtainium. But if we had played a drinking game, nobody would have been drunk, because I think they say unobtainium like twice.
They say it more than twice, but yeah,
It's not very
not
often.
often.
Yeah, it's not very often. I expected that to be a much larger part of this. Full stop. I don't really know what else really did work for me. The biggest thing was that I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would.
Yeah. I'm going to echo you about Michelle Rodriguez. I unapologetically love her.
Yeah.
I think the first time that I really saw her was in Lost, and like I've been hooked ever since. It's a shame that she's in like all the Fast and the Furious movies, and that's pretty much all she does anymore because
Don't want to watch any of those.
I refuse to watch those. But that said, like I have seen this movie before, and I forgot that she was in it. So like when I saw her the first time, I was like, "Oh, yay!" But yeah, so I loved that part of it. The tech that they use in this movie, I mean, granted, the film takes place in like 2154 or something stupid like that, but the tech is kind of cool. You know, I will give it that. And also, like for a 15-year-old movie, the CGI does hold up pretty well. I know that like this movie, like he started, James Cameron like had the plans for this movie back in like, I want to say like the 90s maybe,
Yeah.
but he didn't want to make it then because he knew that the technology wasn't around to make this the movie that he wanted it to be. So like props to him for recognizing that and waiting, because if this movie had come out in like the 90s, we would not be saying the same thing. And then finally, like, I don't know if it was just me or like, can Sully's avatar kind of get it?
That was just you.
Oh, okay, fine. Well, Tabitha, what worked for this movie for you?
I'm going to reiterate Michelle Rodriguez because, as with every single movie she's ever in, she's the best part. I saw this in the theater, and I think that was the only time I saw it. And we all know I'm a sucker for a sci-fi movie that is just dripping in allegory. So
I didn't catch any of that. What are you talking about?
We watched the same movie.
while this is no Starship Troopers, like it still has some of my favorite things, like the like taking a completely different world and like using it to this feeds into my least favorite thing too, though, but taking a completely different world and feeding it into something that's relatable for, you know, the struggle of what we're dealing with today and in the future and in the past. So I enjoy those things. And also I love Sigourney Weaver all the time.
She was a high point. Yeah.
Lydia.
Well, I mean, I might as well make it unanimous. Like Michelle Rodriguez, obviously.
This is a Michelle Rodriguez Stan podcast.
Yes.
I'm here for that. Yeah. Screw all that.
But like you guys have already said, like overall, like CGI held up really well over the years. It was definitely the point of time where CGI was an art form, not just something that made your life easier because you didn't have to do makeup. They also did a really good job of making you absolutely hate the bad guys in this, because the moment that I don't even remember the dude's name, but as soon as him in his pink shirt walked on screen and started talking, I'm like, I hate you already. I also like, because it's very obvious, kind of like cowboys and Indians, for lack of a better term, but like they did a really good job of making the Na'vi kind of Native American-like and not trampling on them at the same time. And it really kept my interest, because I'm notoriously bad about watching movies because I get bored really quick, especially with something this long. For as long as this movie is, it's not a chore to watch. Like it's constantly moving. It's constantly got something that you're paying attention to, versus like the Batman that's 3 hours long for no freaking reason. So
Do you need me to edit that out for Kevin's sake?
oh no, he completely agrees with me. we were talking about that last night, actually. Yeah, aside from the fact that this is literally Alien Pocahontas, like I was not finding much wrong with it last night.
So now we are going to talk about what's wrong with it. And Tabitha, I'm going to start with you, but I'm starting off with a question. So when those like animals that sounded like dogs, when Neytiri was killing them, were you triggered?
Yeah. I was not watching. I was looking at my phone because I knew that was coming, and I was like, I'm not going to watch the dogs get stabbed.
Does that show up on doesthedogdie.com?
You know, I don't know. I can check, though.
I totally did not know that was a thing.
Doesthedogdie.com?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I run every movie I watch for the first time through doesthedogdie.com, so I know what I'm getting into.
Even if she doesn't know there's a dog in it?
Yeah. I'm
Just
like,
in case.
there might be a dog in this, especially like horror movies, every single time. Because if like there's torture of an animal, I'm out. Sorry, you can torture humans all the more you want. Don't torture the pets. What didn't work? Why we got to use papyrus as our font.
That's the best you can come up with. He spent all his money on the CGI.
Yeah, you can't like
It could have been Comic Sans.
you can't. True, almost worse is
I
papyrus.
expected it to show up Live, Laugh, Love at some point.
I like if you spent all this money on this movie and all this money on the CGI, and you couldn't be bothered to make a font like any kind of font. People make fonts all the time. Why are we using papyrus, James Cameron? Also, I think my biggest gripe with this movie, other than the fact that there's not an original thought anywhere in the movie, is the fact that why did we not just let Sam Worthington have his Australian accent? Because he might as well have. Because his English accent was so bad that like every time he would talk, I'm like, I can't buy him as an American. I can't do it. Just let him talk. Just let the man talk like he normally does, because it makes more sense. Yeah, there's not an original thought. You said Pocahontas. It is also Last of the Mohicans. Like, almost like boom, boom, boom. It is also, what did your sister say? Fern Gully. Like, there's so many movies that this movie is part of. It's also, what was the other one we were talking about last night? There's a bunch of movies that this is, like the Unobtainium, the characters. The only thing that's different about this movie is that you put it on a different planet and you made the people, like the native population, blue. Nothing else. There's not an original thought in this movie literally anywhere.
even though it comes out the year after this movie did How to Train Your Dragon.
Yep. 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 Oh, that was the other thing I didn't like. Like when he started riding the big dragon, I was like, I wonder if his other smaller dragon is sad.
It's sad
I
now.
thought that
Because he like disconnected from that one, and it was like, "Arr!" And then like he landed on the big one, and it just kind of was like, okay, and it like flew away. And like I know that Turok Makto like left after that, and it's fine. He probably went back to his other little dragon guy, but like, what a sad day.
It's a little rude.
I
They
know.
probably talked about it first. He probably got the okay.
Yeah, but it would be like, I don't know.
I love you, buddy, but you're just not strong enough.
Yeah.
Bye.
Sad. Okay, I'm done complaining.
Lydia, you said that the 2 hours and 47 minutes or however long it was wasn't taxing for you. It was very taxing for me. While yes, it was something where like it did kind of keep you going and everything. Like there were multiple scenes that they could have cut down, like especially some of the like the war scenes and the fight scenes, you know, whatever. They could have cut that down. They could have shaved off a half hour from this movie. I was struggling. I was like, I need this to end right now. But yeah, like thankfully it didn't keep being this way, but like, and I get why it kind of was, because it was kind of like showing you how like the environment was or whatever, but like just a smidge ableist, you know. And I guess I am looking at that through a 2025 lens, when in 2009 some of that language was fine, you know. So I guess that's not really fair of me now that I'm thinking about it. I get why the idea of the one guy who like just in the middle of like the not the lab, but like in the middle of like the station or whatever, control room, yeah, thank you, is playing like, you know, tin can golf. I get that like it's supposed to make you be like, oh yeah, this guy's an asshole. I still hated that. It was like, cool, you're like hitting me over the head with that. Like there is no world where somebody is actually doing that. Yeah, Smokey Bear would be pissed at Sully. Like, how did Sully not start a forest fire in that night scene? Like, what? Also, so like that first night when Sully is like going to sleep or whatever, like there's that hammock with him and Neytiri, and like right in between the two of them is an orgy. Like, what is going on?
Totally
I
did
didn't
not
see that.
Yeah. Go back. Like I STG. Like there is an orgy going on. Are you looking it up?
No, I don't want to see this.
Yeah,
I
don't
want to
Google
see
Avatar
this.
orgy. Probably.
Not doing that at
Probably
all.
not something you want to do now. I don't think you're going to get the actual movie scene at that point.
Yep.
Nope.
So Natsif kind of brought this up. The bulldozer, when we first see it, it's being driven by somebody who's dressed like a trucker. Like, why?
Construction guys are
stereotypes.
still the same in 2154.
I guess. Couple things that bugged me, which like I guess they kind of play hand in hand. Like Grace shows up in her avatar form at just like the most random yet convenient times. There's not any kind of rhyme or reason to it, but it's just like a matter of like, you know, James Cameron writing the script and he's like, oh, hey, Grace should say this line. Here, she's randomly here as her avatar. Like, what? But like, also, and they did bring it back towards the end with what Noah, I think he is. But like after the first half hour, they kind of drop the whole idea of these other scientists or soldiers or whatever being avatars aside from Sully and Grace. And that's just such a huge plot point to just let go of. You know, there's that first scene where like when he's like first has his legs and he's running around and he's like playing basketball with people. It's like, okay, where are these people now? Like, what? Yeah, again, I just have this in all caps. Why is this so long? Again, this is kind of like looking definitely at it with 2025 eyes, but the humans, aka the Americans, being the enemy, it's a little too close to home for me right now. just a smidge. And then really the last thing I have, like the ending, talking about stealing from other movies and franchises and whatever. The ending gave me Lion King, but don't make it obvious you copied vibes. Yeah. Matt, what didn't work for you?
Oh, this is a long list. I'm kind of gonna piggyback off of what Tabitha said about not having an original idea, because this makes me feel like those trailers we watched for Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis. It's like, let's take all the shit that I like and shove it together and make something that nobody will realize is really everything else. But it is. Like, there is not an original thought. And that expands to my absolute hatred for the unobtainium. Like, again, I've been over this for 15 years since this movie came out. You had this grand idea, this grand plan, and this is the best thing you could come up with was unobtainium for the name of this material. The only name you could come up with for this planet, which is amazing but also troublesome, is Pandora. Oh my God, really? Get an idea. Avatar. You named the movie after like a video game avatar. Like, you plug in and you become this character. Like, you couldn't even name like the mobilization or like the way that you go into this creature, this being that has been modified, other than calling it an avatar. Like, it's quite literally the definition of an avatar. Like, that's what it is. Like those three things alone are just like, you have to be able to expand and come up with a synonym for some of those things that do not sound so incredibly obvious. I know you guys said that the CGI has aged well, and for the most part it has, but there are a number of places where it's very much like a 1990s WWE video game, where like or like Grand Theft Auto, where like somebody is running in place and the ground is not moving underneath their feet. Like, there are times where it is still absolutely beautiful. The landscapes in particular, as horrible as they are, the fire that happens when in the battle sequences, like, that CGI is beautifully well done. But there are moments where there are two of these Na'vi face to face, and they look like cardboard cutouts. Like, it just, like I said, there's places where it is still well done, but there's also places where, at least for me, it was glaringly bad. There are plot points that are introduced, which for a 3-hour movie are completely ignored. Like you said, he gets there. All of these other avatars are out in this field, training, practicing, learning how to use their appendages, how to exist in their avatar form. Because he is a paraplegic, he gets his legs and figures this shit out and can run down the field with no problems. And all of a sudden, he's on a mission. Like, I feel like everybody else that's in their avatar spends months learning how to function before being let out into the field. He shows up, plugs in, boom, we're in the jungle, we're ready to go. Like, I understand it, a 3-hour movie, there are things that you have to truncate and like cut out, but like, you could have done a montage, like a 2-minute like training montage with a soundtrack in the background of him learning how to be, and it's just completely ignored. And there's other aspects of that. Like, there is an entire tension between the scientists and the military and the business aspect of these three arms that are occupying Pandora outside of the Na'vi, of like the humans. And you know that there's that tension, and you dislike the business and the military side of them. But apart from disliking those characters, like, there is no expansion of the tension between those three, other than like all of a sudden that random moment where he's like, nope, we're pulling you out. Hit the red button. You're no longer, and the Avatar just drops in the middle of the jungle. That said, at least they finally, about halfway through, addressed the fact that Sam Worthington was not getting any sleep.
Yeah, I finally asked that question to not Seth, and then because I paused and I was like, so do they just not sleep ever? Yeah. And then I hit play, and then they immediately addressed that as oh, okay, so
yeah,
kind of,
yeah. Well, you spend 20 minutes or a half an hour being like, this dude's just not sleeping, because he's plugging in and then he's unplugging, he's doing stuff with the scientist, and then he's plugging back in and he's awake. They did touch on that, but again, might have been a little bit more important than they let on. So,
Lydia.
So from the very start of this, it bugged the crap out of me that it's oh, hey, sorry your brother died. Want to go to space? No grieving period. No, here's a plaque in honor of your brother. No, nothing. Just, we need your DNA. Let's go. Okay, that works, I guess. Was anybody else ridiculously uncomfortable with the bonding scene, or she's teaching him how to bond with the animals for the first time?
No, really.
It was very erotic for no reason. I was uncomfy. I understood what they were going for, but just the way they portrayed it was just no, thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of plot points that kind of got dropped in there and then immediately forgotten. Other than that, I can't really think of a whole lot. Obviously, like you guys have said, it's just bits and pieces of all these other things. And it literally is, and I got this from Kevin, not gonna lie, it literally is Alien Pocahontas. That's literally what it is. Mm-hmm. Which, for when the first time the guy called them savages, that's what started playing in my head. Not gonna lie, kind of made me want to watch the sequel, but now I'm really mad that Michelle Rodriguez isn't gonna be in it. So, there's that.
You know why I don't want to watch the sequel?
Because it's Michelle Rodriguez.
It's over 3 hours long. That's why.
What?
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
We were talking, we should have watched it like it was a TV show and broke it down and watched it over the course of a few days, 30 minutes, 30 minutes, 30 minutes.
I mean,
I wasn't struggling with the time. I'm just old, and sitting up until 10 o'clock at night watching a movie is not in the cards for me at my advanced age.
I mean, there are a few moments where it was clearly should have been a commercial break.
Yeah, right. We were like, oh, commercial break. Pause. Go to the bathroom.
So let's talk about the rewatchability. I kind of know you guys. Lydia, have you seen this before?
So, I have never seen it all the way through. This is one of those movies that I have randomly walked into the room to somebody else watching, but I feel like I'd always walked into the same exact scene every single time I saw it. So, for the majority of it, was basically watching it like I'd never seen it before because I hadn't.
So is this something that you would watch again?
I don't know if I would intentionally put it on, but if I walked into it being on in the background again, I would not be mad.
The only other time I've seen this movie was actually we were coming back from Ireland. We it was on a coach bus or whatever, and was playing on the TV. I had started watching it. I took a nap, woke up, watched the rest of it. So like, yeah, kind of in your shoes. Like I've never seen it all the way through. And for about the first half, I was even like, okay, like one of the things that's always weirded me out about Avatar is that it was like, it's still, even now, adjusted for inflation, like it's the second highest grossing movie ever. But like, it came out, it was done, and like, people stopped talking about it. It's not like Star Wars where you had like Avatar t-shirts and Avatar comic books and all that kind of stuff. Like, no, it was just not ever a thing. And then James Cameron like, JK guys, I've got like 4 more of these coming. A decade later, but it's fine. But yeah, but like, anyway, so like, I'm watching this, and I'm like, okay, I can kind of get into it. Like, I'm kind of digging this. I maybe would want to watch the sequel. I can't. Like, especially with it being even longer, and with me pointing out the things that like you can definitely cut out of it. Just knowing that it's even longer, so there's more stuff that they could have cut out. So yeah, so like, am I saying that I would never watch it again? No, probably not. But like, probably not willingly. Tabitha. Oh, Lydia.
Sorry, I just had a thought about things that bugged me real quick because I had the thought and then I lost it by the time you got to me. Grace being so pissed off that he was there, and then as soon as she runs into him in their avatar forms, being like, "Hey, buddy, how you doing? Best friends." Like, you were just pissed that he was here not even 5 minutes ago. Why are you now buddy?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Maybe she's just a different person in her avatar.
Maybe. Anyway, I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah. But Tabitha, let's talk about your rewatchability.
Like I said, the only time I'd seen this was in the theater when it came out, and I hadn't watched it since for a reason, because it's 3 hours, and I am stingy with my time, and I don't think I would actively seek out watching this again. But like Lydia said, like if it happened to be on, or like I needed like a background noise, and like this was the only thing I could find, I'm not gonna not watch it.
Matt.
I do have to backtrack for one quick second. We're talking about no original ideas. That final battle is Star Wars. It's the Empire versus the Ewoks, just FYI. On a forest planet too. No, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not watching this again. It's too long. For being every other movie with a coat of paint. To sit through this again for 3 hours. Like, honestly, I don't think I would even put this on for background noise. I have plenty of other options if it were to come to that.
So final question, is this movie a guilty pleasure or a dumpster fire? Matt, we're going to start with you because you're pretty much the reason why we did this week. Because of your hatred of unobtainium over the years.
I mean, to be fair, my hatred of unobtainium remains. It is not quenched in any way, shape, or form. While I did not hate this movie the way that I thought I would, to me it still ends up being a dumpster fire.
Lydia.
See, I can't say it was a dumpster fire because, like I said, it kept my attention and I enjoyed majority of it. So I'm going to go guilty pleasure.
If it were a half hour shorter, I would say guilty pleasure. I would maybe even say, like, no, I genuinely like this movie. But because it's so long and because, like, it was almost torture towards the end, I got to go dumpster fire. Tabitha.
I'm going to go guilty pleasure. Not because I think I want to rewatch it, but because we have watched some true dumpster fires. And in comparison, this is good.
So since we're tied, not Seth.
Guilty pleasure.
All right. So Avatar is a guilty pleasure. So we've got one last story. I'm going to make it quick because I know we all want to go to bed. Not here. You guys are going to go to your homes, please. So a Welsh woman was fined and issued a restraining order because of an interesting way that she harassed her boyfriend's ex. On at least 8 separate occasions, Rhiannon Evans sent a video to the victim where she put her butt on the camera and farted directly into the lens. Prosecutor Diane Williams said, quote, "It was purely malicious. She was smirking throughout, found it hilarious, but the victim didn't." Her defense attorney said, quote, "At the time she sent these videos, she had some drinks and she sent them, understanding now that this has caused the victim distress. She sent them without malicious intent." Evans pled guilty, saying she felt her boyfriend was being unfairly treated over child contact. The victim said in a statement that she, quote, "would like to feel safe in my home." Evans was fined about $375, was ordered to attend 15 rehabilitation sessions, abstain from alcohol use for 2 months, and not contact the victim for 2 years. Okay, there's a lot to unpack here, but to start with the victim saying, "I'd like to feel safe in my own home." Like, girl, you are safe in your own home. Like, at this point, it happened 8 times. So, you know, when you get a text message from Rhiannon, you
Don't
know it's
open
going to
it.
be a fart video. So, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, or fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Like,
Fool me
girl.
8 times, you stupid.
Yeah. Like, girl, at a certain point, like, you know this bitch is just like, come on.
That's so absurd.
Well, I understand being upset about custody arrangements and things like that. That is not how you go about it.
Yeah, I feel like they would just make it worse.
Exactly.
I've been real mad at a lot of people for a lot of stuff. I've never done that.
Also, that's your own phone that you're sitting on. I feel like that's just a good way to give yourself pink eye.
Yeah. If nothing else, like, especially if you have to take a phone call right after, you might be smelling that.
Like,
What if you didn't wipe enough and you got it on your screen?
can you fart on? Is she farting on cue, or is she just like, "Oh my god, it's time. Put my phone down." Fart. Like, or is she like prepping? Like, I had some beans today, so
People burp on command, but I don't know about farting on command. That's something.
no.
Yeah, that'd be really awkward if she had a shart.
Oh,
You ain't clean of that.
You have to get a new phone. How you gonna,
Right.
how you gonna take that to the AT&T store and be like, "I need a new phone. What happened to it?"
Is this
I
under
pooped on
warranty?
it.
I pooped on it.
I pooped on it.
Call it hazmat.
Right. I'm like, I'm gonna need you to put that in this bag, please.
But yeah, like, I don't think that I've ever been mad at, nor would I ever be mad at somebody enough to fart into my phone and send it to them.
You just look like a lunatic. Like,
Right.
I'm not even offended. I'm just worried about you.
Also, like, you know, like how phones are and like it pulls stuff from your phone to give you ads and stuff. What kind of ads is she getting now that her butthole is on her phone?
Hemorrhoid cream.
Yeah. Butthole bleaching services.
A different brand of toilet paper.
Bidets.
Well, I'm sorry this was such a shitty way to end this episode.
He knew that one was coming too.
That was on purpose.
I was kind of hoping it'd be clever enough to where she would have taken one away, but
Mitch,
I
you're
guess-
never that clever.
I have been that clever.
When?
I can't remember exactly when,
But I needed time and date stamp.
but
Yes, or it didn't happen.
I am sure there is record of it.
Screenshot or didn't happen.
So I'm going to go ahead and start a contest right now to anybody who goes back and listens to all the episodes. If you can find the episode where Tabitha takes a shame away from me, I'll give you like, I don't know, like $5. So yeah, the Geek Awakens podcast at gmail.com. Hit it.
Don't send us your fart videos.
Yeah,
Please.
please don't. On that note,
I can tell you what date that you got 8 shames in one video.
I kind of remember that. Actually.
Actually, it happened twice, so
Yeah, kind of back to back, if I'm not mistaken.
pretty close.
Yeah.
Man, you were on a roll.
Yeah. 2025 is going to be my year, guys.
Rolling over my nerves.
All right. I want to go to bed, so everybody say bye.
Bye.
That's going to do it for this episode of The Geek Awakens. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, then shoot us an email at thegeekawakenspodcast@gmail.com.
It would be a shame if you didn't follow us on Facebook and Instagram at The Geek Awakens Podcast or on Blue Sky at The Geek Awakens.
Music provided and created by E. Cannon Beats.
Logo created and designed by Shay McCain.
That's it for this week. We're boldly gone.